Review podcast.
The
Review podcast.
Cast pod of the past and future and present, and we're talking about a lot of different things today.
Yeah, we are.
Hi, Brie. How are you?
Hi, Anthony.
Great. we're on our second recording of the day.
Yeah, we just earlier recorded because our audio wasn't working the other day, so we had to record Halloween 5. So now we're on to Halloween 6. We just reviewed it.
We're fresh off this movie, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Brie, I have a couple questions for you.
What is the question?
First of all, who's he cursing?
I don't know.
Is
it Michael's curse, or is it the curse placed upon Michael?
I don't know. What's the dog doing in the background?
Sniffing things.
Kaido. Oh, he's eating something.
Trying to get his ball, and there's a cobweb.
Oh, can you help him out a little bit?
Yeah, 1 second.
We're interrupting this podcast to help Kaido out. Kaido is our little audio engineer in the making, and he wanted his ball, so we had to stop for a moment and do that. Wait, what were you saying about the curse? I
said, is it Michael's curse, or is it the curse placed upon Michael?
I think he's cursing at people. Physically.
Fuck are you?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Second question for you, Brie.
Yes.
What scares you?
What scares me? You know what really scares me?
What?
Driving on a tollway. Why do roads cost money?
Because capitalism?
I don't know. I used to like going on the tollway because I like to watch my mom throw change in the little baskets.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
But now
I always wanted to throw the change in the basket. Look at me, the little capitalist in the making.
But like now everything's digital and it's boring. Where's the fun?
Well,
where's the pizzazz?
And you have to pay attention to where you are.
Also, it used to be like,
and if you screw that up, then you are done.
It used to be like 50 cents. Now it's like $1.80.
Yeah, like we just watched a Simpsons episode about
fork off, guy.
Yeah, we watched a Simpsons episode about Marge refusing to pay the tolls.
Oh yeah, one time I was going to one of my friends' houses for the first time, adult friends. So it was my friend Colleen. I went to her house for the first time. Lived about 40 minutes away, but I put in without tolls. Took me like an hour and a half to get there. Like almost double the time it took to get there. You
have to weigh that because maybe you're in a rush, or
I was in no rush, but when I drove home I had finally taken off because I do it on my maps, like no tolls. When I went back,
Kaido is again staring at the corner of the room.
No, he's creeping me out.
Is there anything there? I can't see past the table. What did he just eat? Oh.
A cobweb.
Okay, well.
We'll watch him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we are moving into this movie, and Brie's treat today, I'm going to tell you how to make the best pizza. I make pizza a lot. Like homemade pizza. You need flour, honey, yeast. Active dry yeast. It doesn't have to be instant because if you're making this, you have time. Pizza sauce, butter, minced garlic, cheese, and then whatever pizza topping you like. So this pizza dough. We did pepperoni. This pizza dough, it takes about 4 hours. So make sure you're making it well in advance.
Got to play the long game if you're trying to watch Halloween 6.
But oh my God, Anthony, is this pizza dough like the best pizza dough though?
Pretty good.
Okay, so what you do is in one bowl, you do a cup of warm water. It has to be warm. And then about a tablespoon of honey. And then you pour the yeast in there. Give it a little stir. And then you wait for the yeast to bloom. And it looks like fireworks. Okay.
Oh yeah, you showed me that before.
Yeah, it looks like fireworks in the bowl. Once the yeast has bloomed, you're gonna add it to another bowl, and in that bowl you have your 2.5 cups of flour, and you have like your 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I put a little bit more salt because I live with the Salt King.
Love salt. I love the salt. My kidneys will thank me later.
And then so you're gonna add that. You can use a bread mixer, like the bread hook on like a KitchenAid. I use my hands, Nature's Free. I just grease them with olive oil. Once you knead the dough, you're gonna put it in a greased bowl with a towel over the top and store it somewhere warm. You're going to let it rise for an hour, take it out, punch it, knead it again, put it back in, let it rise. I let it rise for like another 2 hours. By the time you take it out, it's really 3 hours to get it like all rested. And then once it's been the time, you're going to set your oven to 450. You're going to take your dough out. You have to form it in a rectangle. I usually do. I'm not a big fan of the circle pizzas.
The best rectangle you can get.
Yeah.
It's
nothing special.
Perfect.
Then you're going to melt like half a stick of butter. So it's soft but not liquid, and add some of your minced garlic to that butter. You're going to spread that butter down on the crust. Then on top of that, you're going to add the pizza sauce, and then you'll put your toppings on, and then lastly the cheese. I think it always tastes better with the toppings underneath the cheese.
Yeah, if you follow our Instagram, review_pod, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure. I never remember.
And then this is the one time I did put like a face on the pizza.
Yeah, if you follow our Instagram, we also post pictures of the food up there as well as bonus content. We'll talk about that a little bit more later.
As long as you follow that recipe for that pizza, post it on, if you make it, it's kind of like my go-to pizza. I don't buy pizza crust
make it every once in a while.
Yeah, I don't buy pizza crust already made at the store. We sometimes will go and get a pizza from around here, but we haven't really found a good pizza place around here.
Not since we moved here.
Yeah, so I just make pizza for us.
Yeah. All right, Brie, why don't we get into it? Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Let me give a little behind-the-scenes background information. This movie was made 6 years after the last one. Kaido is messing with his toys, and he's being very loud. There's nothing I can do about it. 6 years after the last movie. Last one was in 1989. This one is in 1995.
My birth year.
Mine too. This is such a weird behind-the-scenes production history of how we eventually get what we got in Halloween 6. So we're in the middle as Mustafa Akkad is trying to figure out what to do with Halloween 6. Because they rushed production in Halloween 5, it came out a year after Halloween 4. They rushed it. They said, let's get whatever we can on the screen and we'll worry about it later. Well, now's the time to worry about it because they couldn't figure out what to do. And as they're trying to figure out, as they're fielding scripts from different writers, they lose the rights to Halloween to Dimension Films, run by the Weinstein brothers, Harvey and the other one. Both are douchebags. But the Weinsteins are now co-producers of the Halloween franchise with Mustafa Akkad and his son Malik Akkad. So at first, they wanted to get John Carpenter back before they sold the rights to Dimension. And John Carpenter just kind of fucked with them and was like, how about we shoot Michael into space? And that was his pitch. Throw Michael into space. And they said, get out of here, guy. Then when Dimension got the rights to Halloween, they pitched Halloween 666, The Origin, which would have followed a homeless Michael Myers masquerading as a homeless person, Dr. Loomis having been admitted into Smith's Grove Sanitarium as a patient, not as a doctor. And that's really all we know about that version of that script. Until I read that second book, Taking Shape Part 2. I'm sure they talk about it, but I haven't gotten there yet. we'll do a whole episode later on about all the unproduced Halloween movies. Then Dimension offered Quentin Tarantino a spot in writing the movie, and he said no.
They thought they could get Tarantino.
Tarantino at this point is maybe coming off of Reservoir Dogs. I can't remember when Reservoir Dogs was made. So Tarantino said no, and then they went into a conversation with a young 20-year-old writer named Daniel Farrens. Farrens was an avid fan of the franchise, and when he met with the Akkads, he presented them with essentially a Bible of the Halloween franchise, where he had the entire family tree, he had the history down, he had the mythology written out, and at first, Mustafa and Malik Akkad said, no, we don't want to work. We respectfully say no, we don't want to hire you. And then once they figured out they didn't have any other good ideas, they went back to Farrens to rewrite a couple of different things that they had already kind of agreed that they wanted to do. So Farrens writes the script, and we don't really know what was in Farrens' script unless they do, and I just haven't learned about it. But apparently his script was consistently changed by the studio. What we saw on the screen is kind of a skeleton of what was originally in Farrens' script. They hired a lesser-known director named Joe Chappelle to do this one. And this is the first Halloween movie to have a Halloween movie with Michael Myers in the canon to have a male lead, and the first one to not feature teenagers. All of these characters are mostly college age. They're in college. And we now have Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. There are 2 cuts of this movie that were released. One, the theatrical cut, which, because this had such a tumultuous production history, which we'll get into a little bit later, we ended up with the theatrical cut, which was Dimension and the Weinsteins version of the movie, and then the producer's cut, which is the Akkads and Farrens' preferred version of the movie. And I've never heard of a producer's cut before, like learning about this movie and like learning about all the production history of this movie. Usually we see director's cuts, but never producer's cuts. So this is the only producer's cut that I've really ever heard of. So this movie had a really troubled production going into it, and I think that shows.
Oh yeah, it does.
We watched the theatrical cut. We didn't watch the producers. I've seen the producers cut, and I told Brie when we were going to start watching this, I'm like, okay, we have a couple suggestions. We could watch the theatrical cut, and then I can talk about the producers cut and what was changed. We can watch both and talk about both equally, or I watch one and you watch the other. And Brie said,
I want to watch it with you.
Yeah, so we decided the theatrical cut, and I just wrote down a bunch of the changes that that was made from the producer's cut. The producer's cut was the first cut of the movie. The theatrical was the second one. And we'll get into all of those changes a little bit later, but we want to focus right now on the theatrical cut.
Okay, we open. I wrote hospital, ? Woman yelling, cult, ? Give me my baby. So it opens up. We don't know where we are. At least I don't know where we are. We get like a woman like giving birth, obviously distraught. Then it starts to not look like a hospital, because at first it did look like a hospital, then it starts not to look like a hospital, and then like the baby is born and she's saying, give me my baby. And I wrote they took the baby out of the room, and I said they left her strapped with her cooch out. Oh yeah, fresh baby out of there. Yeah,
that's weird. There's weird strobe light cuts throughout this entire fucking movie, and it's so annoying. Like, it was to an extent that like I looked at Brie and I'm like, I don't know if I can watch this anymore. I feel like I'm gonna lay around on the ground seeing rainbow colors.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's a weird strobe light effect or like a lightning effect where it's lightning scene, lightning scene, lightning scene, and it's intercut with like Michael Myers and then the baby and then whatever scene.
Do you know like what it reminds me of?
What?
When I make little iMovies and I need like a transition, and like you pick the transition where like the scene flips around.
It flickers.
It's pretty poorly done.
And every time that there's in this movie one of those edits of we are transitioning from scene to scene with this weird flickering strobe light effect, there's this sound that's made too, and it's like a kind of like a knife like slash sound, and also like intercut with like a very soft woman's yelling or screaming. It's weird. I've never seen a movie do this before. It's just weird. Why would you cut your movie that way? It's so distracting to everything else, and it just throws off, like it throws off the tone, it throws off the vibe. There's so much.
It's not the vibe.
There's so much lightning in this movie that it was like, dude, I'm gonna fucking see rainbows if I continue to watch this thing.
And then we get like there's this ritual going on with the baby, and we learn that the woman who gave birth, that's Jamie. Jamie would be, I did the math, like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, so they say that they tell us that Jamie, after Halloween 5, it's believed that Michael and Jamie both died in the explosion at the police station. But in reality, she was kidnapped by the cult, and she's been with the cult for 6 years.
So they,
and now she's pregnant, which leads us to believe that this is something the cult did. Right?
I guess, because they're having a ritual with the baby, and then a lady, a nurse or a woman in the cult has mercy on Jamie, gives her the baby, and she's like, go take the baby, escape with the baby, run. And Jamie's like, come with me, and she's like, no, you go save the baby. And then we find Michael's
the cult sends Michael after them, because Michael at this point has been kind of reduced to just a pawn for the cult.
Yeah, they're
not really his own entity.
I will go into like the curse of the Thorn and all that, where it's like he is destined to kill all his family members. So like he needs to kill Jamie. He's like,
no, but that shit doesn't make any sense, because
okay, but I researched the curse of the Thorn. The whole thing is the cult chooses these children to kill the children are performing the sacrifice for the cult by eliminating their entire family.
Yes.
So Michael is that child. So it was going to be done and with Jamie if he had just eliminated
so
Jamie.
Why did the cult impregnate Jamie?
I don't know. That's what doesn't make no dang sense.
This movie makes me angry.
Why would you make another maybe to get another blood sacrifice?
No, it would make sense if they wanted the baby to be Michael, like to take on the mantle of Michael, but then we get this subplot of
another kid
that they're grooming to be Michael. It's weird. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so whoever wrote this had their... I mean, it makes sense that the wine scenes were involved, because it makes no dang sense.
Yeah, and they're fucking scumbags.
Yeah. So I wrote, okay... this is adult Jamie, and Mike is following him, and I said, who is this baby's dad?
It never goes answered.
I'm like,
we'll spoil it for everybody listening right now. It never go in this cut. It never goes answered.
Oh, it gets answered in that.
Oh yeah, prepare your booty, Brie, because
is it Michael's baby?
Brie, you are going to love the answer to that question. It's what I'm reading this book.
Immaculate Conception.
I'm reading this book, Taking Shape. And it's about the production history of these Halloween movies. And the author of that book goes on to say that this is by far the worst decision ever made for a Halloween movie. Okay. And we'll get to it. Oh, okay. Boy, we'll get to it.
Okay, and she's flying the coop. So and manhandling this baby. She's run with it. Football style. She's grabbed the baby. They're running.
It's a tight squeeze.
She gets in this car, and this guy asks her several times, what are you doing in my car? What are you doing my car. And then she's like, she could I'm like, she could have started the car and just ran away, but she decided to wait until Michael was like right behind this guy. Michael grabs this man's head and just rips it off. The whole head.
Yeah, you can see the vertebrae and stuff. Like, it's nasty.
He rips off the whole head.
Can I make a note here?
Yes.
Something I forgot to mention. So Paul Rudd's in this movie.
Yes.
Paul Rudd is the leading man.
Yes.
Hollywood's best leading man.
He's a cutie patoo.
Yeah, and he never ages. He looks the exact same as he does in the year 2022. However, Paul Rudd is credited as Paul Stephen Rudd. Interesting.
That's random.
I just had it written down when I looked at it. I just said the editing was trash too.
It really was. And then we get, it's a dark. Of course, it's all taking place on a dark and stormy night.
This whole movie feels like it takes place on a dark and stormy night.
Everything is a dark and stormy night. We have the cut where we have Strode Realty in front of the Michaels, like the old Myers house. The old Myers house, and
we're introduced to young Danny Strode, who is receiving visions of the man in black holding a knife telling him that he needs to kill. His mother, Kara Strode, first cousins with Laurie Strode, is kind of a young mom. She's a single mom, and
obviously dad is not too happy because he's a freaking boob about it.
Yeah, so they're living with Kara's parents and her brother. And I don't know, it's just a weird dynamic because how does the Strode family not know about the history of that house and the history that their family has with the Myers? Like, they just seem like not to know about this stuff. And Tommy lives across the street, which is weird too. It's like, I don't know what the structure of this neighborhood is like. Why does everyone live so close to each other?
I have and it took so long for... We're not even gonna get into it. At least the Myers house looks like the first Myers house, and it doesn't look like the weird Myers house from like 2 movies ago.
Halloween 5.
Oh, one
movie. It feels like 2 movies ago.
I'll transfer back in time. I wrote Danny ? And then so we get this. It's intercut with this like radio host. Talking about Halloween.
It's like Howard Stern-esque radio host.
He's like they like talk about after Jamie and the Michael thing the last time. The Haddonfield has decided to like they don't do Halloween.
They banned Halloween.
I said they finally did it. They banned Halloween.
And then there's a subplot as well of a couple characters actively trying to get Halloween back.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that one, like, it doesn't go anywhere, but we'll get there.
And they're setting us up that people can just call in. And one woman calls in and she's like, she's so attracted to Michael Myers, and it's very much making fun of that women who chase after and are sexually attracted to serial killers.
Yeah, that was the whole thing with
this man wants to murk you. Like, he wants to murk you. Like, they're not going to feel love for you. Like, they don't do that.
Yeah, that's an interesting subset of psychology too, is like, I don't know, has anyone ever written a book
probably
on that?
And so we have Danny's mom is like, changing and stuff in the room.
Okay,
and Paul
I read
Rudd's
about
character
this too.
Has like a telescope-esque thing.
It's a literal telescope
pointed at her room, like watching her undress like a freaking
So we're
weirdo.
Introduced to Paul Rudd's Tommy Doyle, same kid from the first movie, just grown up. And the way that we're introduced to Tommy Doyle is just that, in the role as a fucking creeper. Like, this is our protagonist. This is a guy that we're supposed to be rooting for and we're supposed to like throughout the movie. And the first thing we see of him is him trying to spy on a woman changing. Like, what a great way to get us to identify and like this character.
Well, you can definitely tell the Weinsteins had influence in this.
Right? This is
no respect for women, no respect for women's privacy.
One of the things that I'll get to that changes in the producer's cut, because that was the first cut of the movie, to the theatrical cut, is some of the Kara character's role is limited a bit more, and a lot of her scenes are cut from the movie, in the theatrical cut versus the producer's cut. That's because the theatrical cut, which was headed by the Weinsteins, they felt that that actress was not the best looking and that she had too pointy of a face. So they cut a lot of her scenes because she wasn't pretty enough.
You know what? I'm tired of men who look like a sack of freaking potatoes telling women who are like 10 times more attractive than they are that they're not attractive. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying, like, you can kiss our ass. Like, if you can do it, like, if you think you can do it better, go ahead.
Harvey Weinstein, if you think you can play the role of Kara better than...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just go ahead.
Let's see if people want to see you topless, boobies hanging out. No. I've even thought about that, puked a little bit in my mouth.
Got his ass. So, Paul Rudd's character, Tommy Doyle, is introduced. Tommy is monotone. I wrote he's boring.
I put peeping Tommy.
Peeping Tommy. Peeping Tommy. And he's a bit paranoid about everything. It seems like he can't live down his past with Michael Myers. He's become obsessed with it. He's like, I got some theories about what's going on with Michael. And he's right, ultimately, but, like, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And I think that all of our characters are really, at the beginning, connected through this radio, because then we get, like, Loomis is alive. I said Loomy.
Everyone's listening to this radio station.
Yeah, Loomis is alive. He's retired, and I said that's strange because I don't know if that man would just let sleeping dogs lie.
Well, he's like, I'm happily retired.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
Behind the scenes story. In Farron's original script, Tommy Doyle was written as a completely different character. He's still Tommy Doyle, but the way that the movie was going to go according to his original script, and it got changed significantly along the way of production, Tommy was originally supposed to be a charismatic radio host along with his girlfriend, Lindsay Wallace. She was supposed to be in the movie as well. And Tommy was originally written to try to visit the Myers house and exploit his own past for his own personal show.
They kind of took that but personified that as a different character in the movie.
Like who?
The radio host that went to the Myers.
The actual radio host, yeah.
So then...
Barry
Yeah.
Sims.
We have then the throwback to our, like, A story with Jamie's running away from Michael. She goes to a like a train station, and then she makes a call into that radio station because she hears it over the thing, and she calls out for Dr. Loomis. If you hear me, I need your help.
And Loomis hears it, and we're also introduced at this point to Dr. Wynn, Loomis's friend from Smith's Grove, who's also a character from Halloween 1. He has a brief, like, less than a minute role in the movie where Loomis is coming out with his colleague, who is Dr. Wynn, and Loomis is talking about Michael, and Dr. Wynn says, well, how does he even know how to drive? And Loomis says, well, maybe someone around here gave him lessons. And then that's the extent of Dr. Wynn's role, but he's brought back here, and Loomis kind of recruits him to go hunt Michael again.
Yeah. And so she calls in, so that people, and, like, it perks Tommy Doyle's, like, interest. He immediately knows, like, this is the actual Jamie. There's a baby crying in the background, so now he knows there's a baby. He's, like, very observant. Michael's, like, fresh on the chase, finds Jamie so easily. She's hiding in the bathroom. She has the baby. Michael's, like, about to get her, but she disappears out the back. She grabs back in the car, and then we have this car chase. And I wrote, Mike is a dill hole. Like, he's, like, oh gosh, he's, like, ramming her. Like, we're to assume, spoiler alert, but we're to assume the baby is in the car. Like, what a dill hole.
The baby, yeah.
Like, what a dill hole, driving like that, and there's a baby in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Rude. And we get, finally, she kind of crashes near, like, a farm.
Gotta flip that page.
I know.
On page number 2.
I took meticulous notes. She crashes in the farm. Michael kind of follows her, and he picks her up and like impales her, and she says, Mike, you can't have that baby.
He's like, fuck you, I'm gonna get that baby.
Then he pushes her down further.
And he pushes her down further, and he starts the farming equipment, like mangling her organs in the process. So like she's dead.
Yeah, and then he goes out to the car to, you know, grab the baby. He picks up the bundle of blankets, and inside is like a paper towel roll.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do you think about their handling of Jamie in this movie? Do you think it's fair?
I mean, I'm sad that like Jamie died. I'm sad that Jamie was reduced to a 15-year-old like pregnant teen that was used for a cult. And like, you haven't told me who the dad is, because apparently you know. And like, it upsets me because like forced teen pregnancy is worse than accidental consensual teen pregnancy.
Yeah. Do you think she was killed too early? Do you think that this is not a fitting end for that character?
I would have liked to see her at least get the babies to someone safe. Kind of didn't like that, like she left the baby in the train station hoping someone would find it. Dangerous. And I think she'd be a better mom than that.
Yeah. In Farron's original script, Jamie was originally supposed to die way later in the movie, and she was supposed to sacrifice herself in order to save the baby, to save Tommy, Kara, and Danny.
Oh, that would have been a better
That would have been a better ending to that character, right? Save everybody else,
like
sacrifice
Tina
yourself. Like Tina did. That would have been a better use of Jamie. A lot of people harp on this movie because of their
Was the actress not
Jamie.
good looking enough?
Danielle Harris, who played Jamie in the first two movies. I don't think she wanted to come back. I feel like I heard that. I don't know for sure, but I feel like I heard that story that she said no to coming back. A lot of people didn't like that they recast a central character just to kill her off in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
That's what, at least that actress didn't have to go through the like obvious like traumatic experience is to pretend to be a forced 15-year-old pregnant girl. But let's continue on. We go I said where she stashed the baby, because at this point I didn't know where she put the baby. But I knew that when she was driving that she didn't have the baby with her. She was driving too recklessly to have had the baby with her. And she wasn't as worried as she was the first time she was driving. You just know. You just know.
Got that instinct.
And we go then to it's breakfast time at the Strode house.
Well, first of all, we are introduced to John Strode, who is the patriarch of the Strode family. The
biggest dill hole of the dill holes.
He is introduced by cutting down a prank Michael Myers sign, and I'm going to quote him on this because I often say this quote around the house when we talk about Michael Myers. He's chopping down this Michael Myers like wooden plank scarecrow type thing, and he's like, I've had it with this Michael Myers bullshit. And I always say that around the house, especially during Halloween time.
I said, like, I wrote down Dad's an asshole because he calls the kid a bastard, and the kid's like in the room.
He's like staring at him.
I'm like, okay.
Mom is also kind of dumb. I wrote down a quote that Mom said, and I have to dissect this for a second. Mom tells Kara, because she's like studying for her test or something, and she's like, what are they teaching in college? The art of going crazy? And then Kara's like, it's psychology. She's like, Mom, do you not know what psychology is? Like, I just thought that was a dumb fucking line where, like, obviously Mom has to know what psychology is.
You'd think.
But apparently not in the script.
You'd think. I wrote down the kid who's playing, like, this Danny character. He's a little scary looking.
Acting. It's acting.
No, like, just, never mind.
He has resting scare face?
Yeah. He's like uncomfortable, kind of blonde.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know. Blonde kids creepy.
I feel like I've seen that kid in other things
I was
before.
a blonde kid, so like we're creepy looking.
Yeah.
We're like white with like really white hair, and like we just kind of look like we might be aliens.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen that kid in other things
He might
before,
be in other stuff.
Yeah, I would have to look him up. I just said Dad's an asshole to Kara and Danny, and then what does Danny do?
Oh, he almost like goes to dad.
He stands in front of
with like
dad
a knife.
with the knife, like he's gonna stab him. They're all like, "What the hell are you doing, Danny?"
And mom's kind of like, "No,
no, Danny." So, if you didn't notice, the matriarch and patriarch of the Strode household are named John and Deborah, as a little nod to John Carpenter and Deborah Hill.
You know, very nice.
They're the things you notice.
Yeah. We go to, you know, we have, of course, little Tommy Doyle, or big old Tom Doyle.
That sounds like a Harry Potter character.
Big old Tom Doyle. He goes to the train station because he heard in the background of her call the train stop kind of like background noise, and he goes to the phone booth, notices that there's a puddle of blood on the floor. I said, who doesn't notice a puddle of blood
like
on the
day
floor?
Later.
Yeah. And Paul Rudd's character is the one who finds the baby. I guess I'm just thinking about, like, I would call the police at that very moment to get this baby.
Not Tommy.
To get the baby, like, in protective custody.
Tommy's like, I'm gonna take this baby. He's like, I'll never let anybody hurt you. And he says it with such creepiness.
Oh, yeah. His
like,
character's
Tommy's
pretty
unlikable.
Yeah, he's pretty creepy in this one. And then we're on the farm, and Loomis is there. And, yeah, 'tis a murder. And
there's a big mark of the thorn burnt into the hay. And Loomis goes, yes, that's his sign. He's coming home.
Yeah, so...
It's like, okay. Yes.
Michael Myers is back.
Oh, Tommy names the baby?
Oh, what's his name?
Steven.
Steven.
And Steven.
What's Paul Rudd's middle name?
Steven. Tommy, Loomis, Kara, and Steven.
And then we get our mom characters going to college. She has a ton of books in her book bag, and they fall out. And I know she doesn't go down to pick them up. Her friend goes down to pick them up and notices the drawing and actually opens it up, which mom didn't do at home. And she's like, "Oh, it's a creepy drawing." Like,
and what does her brother say? Her brother's like, "I think it's cool."
And that's like, okay, like there's a knife. There's a knife and blood coming out of every member of your family.
Yeah, like kid I know draws that. Like I'm calling someone. I don't know who it's gonna be, but someone's getting a call.
Yeah, I just put, creepy. Ooh, sorry for my yawn, everybody. That's not a fun noise to hear in your ear.
We're filming this late.
We're
both really tired, but we're gonna power through, and we're gonna get this thing.
I worked all day. I'm ready to go though. I just think a lot of people are kind of like creepy in this. Like Loomis is creepy for going into the house. Like that's what happens next. Loomis just like shows up at the Myers house.
What the hell was that all about?
In the house, and the mom is like terrified
and like scares her.
Yeah, and
he walked through the front door.
Well, if he can get in, Michael can get in.
Like, he just straight up walked through the front door, and he's like, "Mrs. Strode, you're in grave danger." He's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And
so, like, he's giving them a fair warning, telling them, giving, like, Mrs. Strode, a lowdown of what's going on. She calls her husband, like, "Why didn't you tell me this? Like, I'm leaving the house. This is scary and everything." And he's like, "No, you won't. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, it's fine, blah, blah, blah." And then, she gets
murgled.
She gets murked. Murgled. And pretty, not brutally, but...
You don't see the kill on screen.
Yeah,
but
so
Michael takes a hatchet.
Well, he kind of chases her in a way. She loses her glasses. She's outside the backyard.
I made a note about this kill scene. Did you notice how many cuts were...
They did a lot of cuts.
It was like Mrs. Strode was running, and it was like... There's a cut of her leg running. There's a cut of her arm moving. It was like cut, just to get her to fall down on the ground. To get her to run out of the house and fall on the ground. It was like 7 cuts until she actually hit the ground. And I thought that was a weird decision. I understand this movie stylistically is trying to go for something. And it's supposed to be very hit you over the head, very aggressively shot, filmed, like lit, cut, edited. It's baffling to me.
I know.
I don't know what they were trying to go for.
So when we first see the mom, she's bringing in a box from outside, and there's an axe in that, and I'm like, how much you want to bet that's how she dies?
Yeah, you said it straight up. You're like, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, and so when she takes that downstairs, when she comes down from like grabbing a suitcase because she told her husband she's gonna leave, she notices that that box from downstairs is now upstairs, and the axe is not in there. She gets scared, sees Michael, she runs. Cut. Falls, breaks her glasses, goes to put her glasses back on, pulls a outside curtain aside. Michael's there, axe, and she is done.
Indeed.
I said music scares me a little. Like the music was keeping me on edge a little bit, but the cuts were so bad.
It took my mind off of it.
Yeah, it took my mind out of it.
So Tommy then befriends Danny and Kara. He runs into Danny. Kara walks into the house looking for mom, can't find her, goes to the room and sees Tommy and Danny sitting on the bed together, like just, chilling.
And I said Paul Rudd's kind of creepy in this.
He's creepy.
He's like, well, no one was home when Danny got home. And so a strange
man
goes up to his room with him just to chill with a baby.
Like, Danny, are you okay?
With a baby, too. And so then they decide to go to Paul Rudd's house.
No, it's like this weird cut. And Danny's like, Tommy's my friend. He likes dinosaurs. And they talk about the baby, and then it's a weird edit to Tommy then introducing all of his research on the cult of Thorn.
Before we even get to that, there are lots of like scenes of the old lady that Tommy lives with, and how she just stares blankly at the TV. It's so creepy. I don't know if the actress was purposefully doing that.
Probably.
Where she's just like empty facial expressions, not really like talking to anyone. Just
but there's a reveal.
Yeah, there's a reveal at the end, so it kind of makes sense as we get there.
Tommy, like, out of nowhere goes into this long explanation about all of his obsessive research over the cult of Thorn and what it means. I looked at Brie, I'm like, what a great first date idea. Like, this is exactly the kind of conversation you want when first meeting someone.
Then we get into that like Samhain thing again, and again we don't pronounce Samhain correctly.
They did it right once.
And they're thinking, that's good enough.
How did he pronounce it?
Sam Hain or something.
He said, his ass said Sam Hain.
And I said, oh, it's Samhain. And then we talked about, okay, so the rune that they're talking about, or the mark of the thorn, or like what looks like a P, makes the sound in Old English. It's literally an Old English letter, right?
Sure.
I don't
know the origin.
And it's a rune, and the rune stands for chaos. So if you pull this rune when you're doing like a reading for yourself or for someone else, it means like there's upheaval, there's gonna be chaos in your life. You don't want, it's kind of like a feared rune. It does not mean no demon, what they talk about.
Yeah, he said the demon would strike famine and disease and death if not sacrifice. Like, he goes into the whole cult of the Thorn, and he says the cult of the Thorn requires a sacrifice of a family lineage.
Which then that makes sense for what I talked about at the beginning. That's why Michael hunts down like every member of his family. But I just think if you're gonna make something up, like, don't use like actual witchcraft symbols that mean things and then like take the meaning and like make it mean something else, because then I'm like sitting here like, this rune does not mean that. I was like, it's not like a sinister rune. You don't want to pull the chaos rune, just like a lot of people get scared of the death card when you pull tarot, even though the death card just means new beginnings.
Mm-hmm. Every new beginning comes from some other beginnings and
exactly
closing time.
So we also have like this baby, like the noise this baby makes.
Oh, it's ADR.
It does not sound like it's coming from the baby.
It's definitely filtered, and it's definitely added post-production, because it sounds like it's a cry from a baby monitor.
And it sounds like it's not like when you do a movie, like it's supposed to be believable that sound, the way it reverberates, is coming from that baby. It sounds like it's coming from somewhere off screen.
It's poorly edited. And there's a reason why it's poorly edited.
And then we have our little Danny. He's looking out the window and he sees Michael Myers, and he's outside in front of the Myers house. And I said, Michael looking a little obese.
Michael got a fat ass.
He got a dumpy.
I said that later in the movie, and I'm like, man, Michael got a big butt.
But Michael's kind of like bigger in this movie than he's been in the past. Like
I actually thought he was kind of. I like the look in this movie compared to the other ones.
The mask is better.
I think the mask is one of the scarier versions of the mask, and I can't pinpoint why. I think
it's just like dirty.
Yeah.
It looks like it's been worn. It's been through it.
But Michael in that mechanic outfit,
dumpy. So then we have like lightning, and
there's lightning all throughout this freaking movie.
And then Dad is coming home and going into
Dad's drunk
and going into the Myers house. He goes in. He's like, "Thanks for dinner." Misogynistic asshole way of saying you can make your own freaking dinner. She told you she was leaving, so he assumes that he's like, I can't believe she actually did it. Then he hears like the bong, 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 bong of like something that shouldn't be in the washing machine. It's in the washing machine.
And Brie's like, she's in the washing machine.
I said, she's in the washing machine because the only time our washing machine makes that bong, bong, bong noise is if we put Kaido's bed in there. And that's like a heavier material that's hitting the sides. I'm like, what's really heavy? People.
True.
People are heavy. And so there's water. He's stepping in water on the ground. And I'm like, is that an eyeball floating in the water? And he goes to open up he turns the washer off. He opens it up. He takes out like a sheet that's covered in blood. It's
a bloody sheet, yeah.
We see Michael in the background. He turns around and
he gets stabbed, and then killed. He gets pushed into like electrical equipment,
and he's electrocuted.
It's a long scene.
His head blows up.
Yeah, it ends with this guy not only gets stabbed but electrocuted, and his head explodes. Like the movie Shocker. Have you ever seen Shocker? Oh, this guy's head explodes in that movie. It's pretty badass. We should watch that.
And then we get like the college kids. Well, the brother and his girlfriend are at this like Save Halloween.
Yeah, and they've invited the shock jock DJ Barry Sims, and Barry Sims makes it. And so there's this festival, and I've got a bone to pick with this movie here, and it's a bone that I read about in that book that I've been reading. And I kind of agree with the plot hole that the writer talks about here. And it's a plot hole. And he goes into why it's a plot hole. It's interesting because so there's this town festival, and eventually, like, we're spoiling a little, we're fast forwarding a little bit. Barry Sims, the DJ host, gets murgled at the town festival. Now, the question is, why is Michael at the festival? He has no reason for being there, right?
Good question, because at first I thought, like, maybe he got murgled and they did a weird cut and he was somehow at that Myers house, but then we realized he wasn't at the Myers house.
Because he talks about the town festival.
He talks about being interested. Once he's talking to the girlfriend's one of like the guests on the radio show, and she mentions that her boyfriend is living in the Myers house. The DJ he is very much interested in that, and he wants to exploit that, which we talk about. That's the original idea for Tommy Doyle. And he gets murdered. The creepiest part about his murder is that it cuts to like I'm gonna say the word cuts to. You can give me a slap on the wrist every time I say it. Yeah. Tommy Doyle's at the festival, and this little girl is like standing under a tree, and she said, "It's raining. It's raining red."
In the producer's cut,
it's warm.
In the producer's cut, she was singing it. It's a weird change. Why couldn't she sing it?
Right, she's like, it's raining. It's raining red. It's warm. It's warm. It's raining warm red. And Tommy gets closer to her because he's kind of like probably alarmed. It's blood. It gets on his hand. He looks up, sees the disc jockey up there. The disc jockey falls. Everyone justifiably freaks out.
So the writer talks about this and he says, why was Michael at the festival to begin with? Well, in the original script, Kara and Danny were at the festival too, so he was stalking them.
Yeah, because why is Paul Rudd's character there?
But Paul Rudd was there to meet up with Loomis.
Oh, true.
But Kara and Danny were there, and that's why Michael was there, because he was stalking them. But then later rewrites took Kara and Danny out of there, but still had Michael there, and it didn't make sense.
Or that's what the pain of rewrites.
The writer quotes John Carpenter when John Carpenter says the script is everything. And that is, it's very accurate. It's true. The script is everything. You don't have a good script, you don't have a good movie.
And the brother and the girlfriend had promised the disc jockey he could come back. They're already at the Myers house getting everything ready. And they're saying, will he even show? We don't know. And the two of them... The two of them decide to get frisky up in the room. They're in Kara's room. And I wrote down, why y'all doing it in your sister's bed? And it was your idea. It's not your bed.
She's going to be mad when she finds out we did it in her bed.
That's just freaking gross.
Why is she going to find out?
Is that your kink? That's gross. Michael Myers, I just know... They're both going to get it at that point.
And they both get it.
He gets it coming out the shower. She gets it. Kara warns her, sees her through the little peeping Tom thing, sees it all happen.
Which nobody questioned Tommy about that peeping Tom thing.
No, we're just going to forget about it.
I feel like he needs to atone for that, or hold some kind of accountability for that weirdness.
So she goes from looking up at her room and seeing her brother's girlfriend get murdered, to then looking at the front door, noticing her son is going to walk into the house, and so she makes the total sane mom decision. I'm gonna go get my kid. That's a total mom move, by the way.
So she has a confrontation with Michael in the house, and one thing leads to another. She thinks she knocks him out. She actually doesn't.
I thought it was hilarious she knocked Michael down the stairs.
She pushed him down the stairs and he tumbled down like a slapstick comedy.
It was like doing, 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 doing.
Yeah. Anyway, it's revealed in this moment that the man in black that we saw in Halloween 5, the one that released Michael from prison, the one that's heading the cult, the one who kidnapped Jamie, is actually our buddy, Dr. Wynn. And
so we find that everyone in the house, the old lady that's been living with Tommy Doyle, works for the man in black.
And everybody at Smith's Grove Sanitarium works for the man in black, because that's where the cult is located. Farron's original script had the entire town in on it, and he was given a note to reduce it to just Smith's Grove Sanitarium. So why Mrs. Blankenkamp, I think that's her name, why she's in on it makes more sense, knowing that his original script was the entire town is in on the whole cult thing. Which is weird because Michael kills people in that town.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to know. So it didn't make much sense.
Yeah.
So Dr. Wynn, Man in Black, they kidnap Danny, and they drug Tommy and Loomis, and then they kidnap Kara as well. She jumps out the window to try to escape them, but they kidnap her anyway. Back to Smith's Grove.
This is where the climax of the movie is. So, of course, I have stopped taking notes. I lead us to the climax, and Anthony takes us.
My first bullet point, Michael fat ass.
Yeah, he got a dumpy.
Okay, so Tommy and Loomis recover from being drugged, and they're like, did we get drugged? And
yeah, we totally got drugged.
Yeah, we got drugged. So they know, for whatever reason, Loomis knows that Dr. Wynn wants to take them back to Smith's Grove. So they go to Smith's Grove. Tommy is stopped by a crazy lady inside the sanitarium, and it's a weird interaction because she says some stuff about Michael, and then he's just kind of looking at her, and then Tommy just goes in the best Paul Rudd delivery of the line, oh, shit. Like, you can still picture Paul Rudd saying, oh, shit. So that's a weird scene. And then Tommy and Michael have a confrontation. Tommy's trying to break out.
And Michael's like very slow on this walk. Like,
right. He's not that far. He's maybe like 15 feet away from Tommy.
Yeah, he's not he has covered more ground faster in other movies.
Yeah. So Tommy's trying to unlock the door to get Kara out of captivity. And Michael slowly, turtle walking over.
It feels like the actor who was playing Michael was trying to give Paul Rudd as much time as he needed
to make weird facial expressions. And yeah, it's just a weird scene. And then Tommy gets her out. They run around. Michael starts killing the entire nursing staff at Smith's Grove, which I wrote.
And all the doctors. And they do that thing that we hate. They had like a strobe light rave party while he's trying to, when he's killing all these doctors and nurses, it's like strobe lights. And I said, oh my goodness, if I had like epilepsy or something like this, I was watching this, I would need the warning.
And they didn't have a warning.
There's no warning. There's so much strobe lighting, flashing lights, not only with the lightning transitions, but this like good couple minute scene is just strobe lights.
Yeah. So Tommy gets out and Michael is murking everybody in the freaking sanitarium, all the nursing staff. And Tommy and Kara are running away. Tommy shoots Michael with a gun, like pretty point blank in the chest. Doesn't take him out. Michael slaughters the whole nursing staff. Tommy and Kara run to a lab. It's like a weird laboratory scene.
Where there's like a baby.
There's fetuses in there, and Kara looks at the feti, and I wrote, "Are we to assume that Jamie's baby is genetically engineered? Is that to be assumed based on that little scene?" Because this question goes unanswered ultimately, but I figured that's maybe that was their take at explaining, but it doesn't explain why Jamie had to be impregnated, and why Michael's still trying to kill the baby if the cult impregnated Jamie. Nothing explains that.
No, nothing does. Really.
So they're in the lab, and Michael and everybody in the main cast have some confrontation, blah, 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 blah. And Michael is he's stabbed with like a couple syringes from
with
Tommy.
Like green goop.
It's like green goop. And Michael gets like fucked up for a second, where like Michael he's like, I got stabbed. And then he goes like this. Whoa. And he like moves his head around like he's like high almost, and it doesn't really stop him all that much. But then Tommy starts beating the crap out of Michael with a lead pipe,
and then he gets him again with another syringe of the green stuff.
Yeah,
and he keeps beating him up to the point where Michael like starts
out of him
oozing green.
Michael starts bleeding green,
and I said, "Ooh, call back to Halloween 3. Is he a robot?" Assume
Michael is a robot. But yeah, I don't know what it's so bizarre, Brie. Like, why is he bleeding green? What was in those syringes that he gets stabbed with? Tommy's got this shit-eating grin on his face after he beats Michael to a pulp with the pipe. Are we to assume that kills him, or did Tommy just leave Michael alive?
And then it does the weirdest cut I've ever seen in a movie ever.
Oh yeah, so they take the baby, and it's the weirdest cut. And there's a reason why. Because
Tommy is in the hospital, and then all of a sudden he's in, like, the next scene, and he's in a car with Kara, Danny, and the baby. He's like telling Loomis, "Hey, you coming with us?"
He's like, "Are you sure you don't want to come with us?" And we're like, "Wait, take a step back here.
How did we
what
get
did
here?
we miss? Like, what part of this?" I said, all of a sudden, we're in a car, and Tommy's like, "Are you sure you don't want to come with us?" And Loomis says he has unfinished business. And I was like, you got to take a step back here. We missed like 2 scenes. There's
something they cut that we don't.
There is something they cut. And then the last scene is that we just get a shot of the mask.
And the mask is Michael-less.
The mask is Michael-less. It's got a syringe next to it for some reason. And you hear Loomis screaming, "Yeah, you got me." I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's it. That's Halloween 6, the theatrical cut.
Interesting movie.
All right, Brie.
I'm ready.
Well, first of all, I want to ask you this before we get into the producer's cut. Does this make it to the top 100?
No, absolutely not.
Does it get an honorable mention?
No, it does not.
Okay.
It gets a.
It gets a.
I hated the scene transitions.
It's almost unwatchable.
We said that it's almost unwatchable. I did not like any of the scene transitions. I did not like the strobe light usage. I did not like the weird like everything was so weird. And the character.
And you bought this movie for me for Christmas.
I did.
So you gave them.
I gave it to
money.
you.
You gave them that money for this movie. You paid for this movie.
Okay, but it was something you had on your wish list. So
it is. Myself, no. Obviously, I don't think this movie goes. I don't think it goes on the top 100. I don't think it gets an honorable mention. I think it gets a. It gets one.
Like oh brother.
Yeah. Oh brother. Is this the worst one out of the franchise so far?
Yeah.
It's like everyone we think is the worst one, and then they outdo themselves.
And then Rob Zombie's like, hold my poodle.
Oh no, we didn't even get to Resurrection. Yeah, I mean Brie. It only goes up from here. Okay, so let me explain what's in the producer's cut. I'm gonna read from my notes. All right, so in the producer's cut, we have more Carpenter music. So
that's definitely lacking in this one. It was
lacking. We got a lot of like 90s rock, but in the places of those 90s rock, you get the dun dun dum dum, like that kind of music. You get that a little bit more. The theatrical cut is a little bit more stroby, a little bit more flashy lights, like those kinds of cuts. We don't get that in the producer's cut. More or less, the producer's cut has less blood and less graphic deaths. That was something that was added by the Weinsteins on the Weinsteins' request to have the guy's vertebrae being shown, or the guy's head exploding. That's not in the producer's cut. So we'll go in order. In the producer's cut, Jamie and Michael are established to have been kidnapped after Halloween 5. Jamie and Michael kidnapped after Halloween 5. And there's a flashback sequence that explains this, that Jamie was taken by the man in black and Michael was forcibly grabbed by the cultists. So there's more in the producer's cut of the man in black influencing the stuff that goes on around Michael Myers and Jamie. We get Loomis explaining that he had plastic surgery to take away his burns. And he's like, it was pretty expensive, but it's better than roaming around looking like a monster. And it's like, that's a pretty good explanation for why they didn't want to get like 75-year-old Donald Pleasance sitting in a makeup chair for hours.
Because he's not a pleasant person to be around.
Apparently not, because he got into scuffles with Joe Chappelle, the director, too. Let's see. More Man in Black influencing Danny Strode. There's a lot more of like those kill Danny, kill, like those things in there. So in the producer's cut, it goes plot wise, it's pretty much the same until we get to the end, but there are some notable differences here. Jamie escapes the cultist, and she does pretty much the same thing that she does in the theatrical cut, except when Jamie is stabbed in the barn with the farming equipment, she doesn't die. And she goes to the hospital, and she stays there for a little bit, but she dies later in the hospital, and she gets shot in the head by the man in black.
Oh, that's kind of crazy.
It's weird, right?
He was like, no, I'm not going to let this get away.
Yeah. We get more of Wynn explaining Jamie's flashback in number 5, or the flashback sequence in number 5. We get a lot of flashbacks to Jamie and the cult. So part of when Jamie is alive in the hospital is her having these like traumatic flashback sequences. And here we are are explained that the cult kidnapped Jamie. They brought her to their underground lair, and they impregnated her. And do you want to know the father?
Yes, please tell me.
Do you really want to know the father?
Just let me know.
Are you sure?
Yes.
The father is heavily implied to be Michael Myers.
That was my guess.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. That's his niece.
Yeah.
So they're making like some kind of like four-legged.
And this is this is something that was cut out. So
some like freaking hooved.
Well, that decision makes less sense than what we were complaining about earlier. If Michael's whole goal is to kill his entire family lineage, why is he impregnating his niece only to kill the baby? Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because he has the mark. If you're going to give this guy the mark of the thorn, he is fated and cursed by your cult to kill his entire family lineage. So he's like, having a child makes no dang sense. I'll continue on.
Yeah. So Uncle Dad.
Uncle Grandpa.
Uncle Dad. It's what the writer of that book says is the worst decision to ever be made in filming a Halloween movie.
It's gross.
It's gross. And it's weird. Like, it's just bad. Brie, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's a bad choice.
John Strode, the dad character, his head does not explode when he's being killed.
Figured.
A lot of the blood and a lot of the gore is out in this. So the moment that Kara jumps out the window to escape the cult, that's when everything shifts and the movie becomes a completely different third act. So Kara is kidnapped by the cult. There's more dialogue with Tommy and Loomis talking about the Thorn cult. Tommy explaining his theory about how Michael is being influenced by the rune. And Tommy says he believes that Michael can be stopped by creating an anti-Thorn symbol and stopping the evil with an anti-rune.
Do you know what the opposite of the rune is?
What?
You flip it upside freaking down.
I think that's what he does.
That's literally if you want some with tarot and runes, if you want it to mean the opposite, you flip it upside freaking down. It's literally like, I'm telling you, the occult is not difficult.
Yeah. So Tommy goes on more explanation about how he thinks Michael can be stopped with the anti-Thorn symbol. And then we get Tommy at the Thorn ceremony, which we don't get in the theatrical cut. We don't get anything about this cult ceremony. In the ceremony, Michael stands off to the side. He's most definitely a pawn that's being used by the cult instead of his own entity. I said that a little bit earlier, but here it's really like evident that Michael is just a figure that is at the becking will of.
So then it's assumed that this cult is the one that taught him how to drive.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Michael stands off to the side, and Danny is there as well as Kara. And Wynn wants Danny to kill Kara in order to transfer the curse to Danny from Michael. That makes sense?
I guess.
So he has to sacrifice.
But why didn't they just do the baby?
I don't know. That's the whole thing. It would make sense if they wanted the curse to transfer to the baby, and that's why they want Michael to be the dad of the baby. But they still push forward with the whole Danny subplot.
I'm gonna tell you, it makes no dang sense.
It makes no sense
at all, unless Michael just like crumples up into a raisin after his essence is taken.
He does not crumple up into a raisin.
Then it makes no. It's
much more disappointing than that. Wynn tries to transfer the thorn to Danny, but Kara interrupts the transfer in the ceremony by telling Michael that the baby is his. Apparently, Michael didn't know that.
It's a god dang Jerry Springer on this.
Yeah. So Tommy rescues Kara, and Danny threatens to kill Dr. Wynn, and then they run to escape Smith's Grove. The cult sends Michael after them, and Michael is about to kill Tommy, but Tommy creates that anti-Thorn symbol using rocks and crystals.
I got the power of God and anime on my side.
He uses crystals, and seals it with his blood.
What kind of crystals?
I don't know. He calls them magic acorns. And
I'm not even gonna say.
He creates a bunch of rocks around Michael, which stops him in his place after Tommy yells, "Samhain!"
Samhain.
Yeah. So Michael is just left standing there like a fucking idiot. He just Brie, he stands there for the rest of the movie, not doing anything. He's just standing. So Michael is not stopped by getting shot, falling off a balcony, getting exploded, getting set on fire. He's stopped by a bunch of fucking stones. Bunch of rocks. Stop Michael Myers.
You know what upsets me most is like the use of like pagan culture, but then like calling them magic acorns instead of like actually looking up like what are some crystals? What are some names of actual crystals? It's the disrespect for me.
And that's really where the movie ends.
That's so
Michael
weird.
is just standing there like that's how they defeat him. He stands there with a bunch of rocks. They go outside. There's a scene where they do go outside and they get into a car, and then Tommy says, "Are you sure you don't want to come with us?" And Loomis says, "I have unfinished business here." So for whatever reason in the theatrical cut, they cut the establishing shots of them leaving Smith's Grove. That's all they did. There was really nothing else there. They just cut the establishing shots. I don't know what kind of decision, coke-fueled decision, was made during 1995's production of this. So Loomis says he has unfinished business. Loomis goes inside and he sees Michael on the ground, and Loomis walks up to Michael laying down in the stone pile and removes the mask and sees that it's Dr. Wynn instead of Michael Myers. Michael Myers had swapped clothes with Dr. Wynn, and Wynn, before he dies, grabs Loomis by the arm and transfers his power of guardianship to Loomis, and says, "Now Loomis is Michael's guardian," and the symbol of the thorn appears on Loomis's wrist. And then Loomis starts screaming like a fucking lunatic.
No!
Yeah, it's that sound that you heard at the end of the theatrical cut for whatever reason. No! Like that. So the tattoo appears, Loomis screams like a maniac, and Michael is swapped out and is gone, and that's how the movie ends. So I've got issues with that ending as well.
Okay, so both suck, but like
this one sucks a little less.
Like, yeah, it's like the theatrical version sucks just a little bit more.
The producer's cut is much more palatable to an extent, and it gives us a little bit more explanation as to the cult of the Thorn. And it definitely, while the theatrical cut tells us evil can be controlled, or can't be controlled because Michael goes on that rampage at the end, this is most definitely evil can be controlled because they stop him with fucking rocks. Mm-hmm. Like, they can control it. Mm-hmm. You just have to have the right amount of magic crystals.
Magic.
So I got a bone to pick with this ending too, because Dr. Wynn is Michael's guardian, right? Like, that's the whole thing. And he transfers the guardianship role over to Loomis. Loomis is like 75.
Loomis is going to die old. Probably.
Why wouldn't you transfer it to somebody younger like Tommy? That would have made more sense, right? That would have made more sense. Uncle Dad, great decision by the studio to not put that in.
Yeah, that's kind of gross.
Theatrical cut. I don't think we needed that at all. That was stupid. It didn't make any sense. But ultimately, I think that most people do prefer the producer's cut over the theatrical cut.
Yeah, well, I can see why the theatrical cut.
The theatrical cut's almost unwatchable, like we said, just based on the amount of cuts and the amount of weird strobe light effects. The movie, regardless of the cut, is an absolute mess. Dookie. And it's dookie.
Hot dookie. I'm sorry. Dookie. I'm like, I have like restless leg syndrome right now.
Yeah. Ooh. It's dookie. I don't know. Is there anything we want to say more about this movie other than all of the problems and the unresolved character arcs and weird cuts and edits and stupid writing decisions. I
have something to say.
Yeah.
We are almost done.
We are almost done.
And then we'll get like the Rob Zombie.
Well, we're moving on to Halloween H2O.
Yeah,
next.
So we'll get to see Laurie again.
Yes.
So we are so glad that you've come along with us on this ride.
We're finally finished with the Thorn trilogy.
Yeah, we're finally finished with this Thorn trilogy. Remember to follow us on Instagram, review_pod. Go ahead and check out Anthony on Twitter.
At GLDTV1 on Twitter.
And then go ahead and email us with any questions, movie suggestions. If you made one of Brie's treats, go ahead and do that as well.
You can email us at reviewpodcast1@gmail.com. Send us some cool stuff. You can also, if you're not watching on our video platform, you can follow us and subscribe on YouTube, Review Podcast on YouTube. And if you are watching YouTube, you can always find us in audio format on really any platform that podcasts are available: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, etc.
We're there.
We're there. We're here. I fear Michael Myers tonight. I've get so much Michael Myers in my brain that I get paranoid.
You know what helps me when I get paranoid? I watch like really fun TV.
We should do that.
He refuses to watch TV at night, and it's because he has to wake up and turn it off, because I am like, I can sleep through like tornado sirens. And
yeah, you did do that once, Brie.
If it's coming for me and it's fated, let's let it just happen.
When I die, just throw me in the trash.
My grandma always used to say, just take me out to the back and shoot me in the head.
And on that note, I am Anthony.
And I'm Brie.
This is the Review Podcast, and we will see you another time.
Review Podcast, the Review Podcast.
We got it right there.